Okay, hello everyone. My name is Brian Jimenez.
Hola, mi nombre es Patricia de Chávez.
Hello, and I'm Zaira Camacho Tapia.
And today we are going to present to you guys our presentation on childhood depression.
So what we're going to go over today is what is child depression, while also going over data and statistics. We're also going to review symptoms and signs of childhood depression, while also going over behavioral clues, causes, COVID-19 and childhood depression, the theories behind childhood depression, typical, atypical child, social and emotional milestones, cases, also while reviewing some treatments and therapy that help a childhood depression, also ways to prevent childhood depression. And we'll wrap it up with some sources for yourself or a loved one who think their child is experiencing childhood depression. So what is childhood depression? Contrary to popular belief, depression can be a mental health disorder that can also develop in children. It is normal for children to experience various emotions as part of their development, including sadness, worry, and fear. However, how often and the duration of these emotions are hints to look out for in order to know if your child is experiencing depression. Depression can range from mild to moderate to severe. Various factors can trigger depression. Studies have been conducted to understand the complex disorder, especially to understand what causes depression in children. There are different forms of treatment for depression, from medication to therapy to help children.
Estadísticas y datos. Los trastornos mentales entre los niños se describen como cambios graves en la forma en que los niños suelen aprender a comportarse, a manejar sus emociones, causando angustia y problemas para pasar el día. Entre los trastornos mentales más comunes que se pueden diagnosticar en la infancia están la depresión, la ansiedad y trastornos de la conducta. Según la Encuesta Nacional de la Salud Infantil, nos proporcionan las siguientes estadísticas. El trastorno por déficit de atención e hiperactividad, conocido como sus siglas TDAH, los problemas de conducta, la ansiedad y la depresión son trastornos mentales más diagnosticados en los niños. El 9.4% de los niños de 2 a 17 años han recibido un diagnóstico de TDAH. El 7.4% de los niños de 3 a 17 años tienen problemas de conducta diagnosticados. El 7.1% de los niños de 3 a 17 años tienen un diagnóstico de ansiedad. El 3.2% de los niños de 3 a 17 años tienen un diagnóstico de depresión. Los trastornos mentales del comportamiento y del desarrollo comienzan en la primera infancia. 1 de cada 6 niños estadounidenses de entre 2 y 8 años, 17.4%, tienen un trastorno mental del comportamiento o del desarrollo diagnosticado. Síntomas y signos de la depresión infantil. El primer síntoma es la sensación de tristeza, irritabilidad y de llanto. El segundo es la pérdida del apetito. El tercero es la pérdida de interés por las actividades típicas que disfrutan. El cuarto es la falta de participación en actividades dentro y fuera de la escuela. Como último tenemos los cambios en los patrones del sueño.
So some behavioral clues in childhood depression. So infants and preschoolers, this group of children is obviously too young to communicate their feelings because they obviously can't talk. Some of the signs to look out for are lack of enthusiasm, show little to no emotion, constantly crying, withdrawal from caregivers. Also, delay in developmental milestones and failure to thrive are signs of depression in this age group. Because it's so difficult to diagnose infants and toddlers, professionals depend on parental history, observations, and evaluations of parent and child interactions. School-aged children. Children in school are able to communicate. Unfortunately, at times they choose to keep their feelings to themselves. They demonstrate their feelings in other ways, like complaining about headaches, stomach aches, temper tantrums, unusual separation anxiety, not wanting to go to school. And because children are in school majority of the time, teachers are heavily dependent on for information and are included in the process of evaluation. Adolescents and teenagers. During this period, adolescents try to stray away from parents. They are in a stage where they feel more self-sufficient and want to become more independent. Both physically and mentally, they are going through drastic changes. Parents need to be more vigilant due to the unfortunate fact that this group is at a higher risk of committing suicide. Behavioral clues can be low self-esteem, frequent depressed moods, irritability, and defiance.
¿Cuáles son las causas de la depresión infantil? La depresión infantil puede ser resultado de una combinación de factores. Estos factores de riesgo por sí solos pueden no explicar el trastorno del estado del ánimo, pero podrían desempeñar un papel. En primer lugar, tenemos la salud física. Los niños con enfermedades crónicas o graves tienen más probabilidades de estar deprimidos. Esto incluye la obesidad. En segundo lugar, tenemos los acontecimientos estresantes. Los cambios en casa, en la escuela o con los amigos pueden aumentar el riesgo de que el niño presente síntomas depresivos. En tercer lugar, tenemos el entorno. Una vida hogareña, caótica o estresante puede poner a un niño en mayor riesgo de padecer un trastorno del estado de ánimo, como la depresión. En cuarto lugar, tenemos antecedentes familiares. Los niños que tienen miembros de familia con trastornos del estado de ánimo o depresión pueden ser más propensos a desarrollar depresión a una edad temprana. Depresión infantil durante el COVID-19. El COVID-19 puede afectar a los niños y jóvenes directa e indirectamente, más allá de enfermar el bienestar social, emocional y mental de muchos jóvenes. Se han visto afectados por la pandemia. Algunos de los retos a los que se enfrentan los niños y los jóvenes durante la pandemia del COVID-19 son los siguientes. En primer lugar, tenemos cambios en sus rutinas. Por ejemplo, tener que alejarse físicamente de la familia y de los amigos. En segundo lugar, tenemos interrupciones en la continuidad del aprendizaje. Por ejemplo, entornos de aprendizaje virtuales, problemas de acceso a la tecnología y conectividad. En tercer lugar, tenemos interrupciones en la continuidad de la atención sanitaria. Por ejemplo, ausencia de visitas de control y vacunación, acceso limitado a servicios de salud mental, del habla y ocupacional. En cuarto lugar, tenemos la pérdida de acontecimientos vitales importantes. Por ejemplo, dolor por la pérdida de celebraciones, planes vacacionales o acontecimientos vitales importantes. Como quinto lugar, tenemos la pérdida de seguridad y protección. Por ejemplo, inseguridad alimentaria y de vivienda, mayor exposición a la violencia y a los daños en línea, amenaza las enfermedades físicas e incertidumbre para el futuro.
So with theories, there are various theories behind the onset of depressive disorders. Psychological studies have been conducted since different factors contribute to depression. One of the theories that we actually found for childhood depression is called the self-efficacy theory by Albert Bandura. So basically, Bandura believed that a person's particular set of beliefs were what determined how well one could execute a plan of action in prospective situations. Normally, a human with normal self-esteem, it is a belief that one could carry out in a specific task or reaching a specific goal. So this mostly has to do with like people with normal levels of self-esteem or high levels of self-esteem. But when it comes to childhood depression, the opposite could happen with kids who have low self-esteem. And with those kids in particular, they basically learn something that is called learned helplessness, which is what a person suffers from a sense of powerlessness arising from a traumatic event or persistent failure to succeed. Basically, meaning that a child with depression might learn to feel very like powerless and and not feel capable of doing in a specific task, even though he might be capable of doing it. They basically learn to believe that they can't do anything about what they are trying to accomplish.
Another theory that we found that is attached or linked to childhood depression is the one we've gone over in class, which is the attachment theory by John Bowlby. His theory stresses the importance of establishing strong bonds, especially during the infant stage. Children need to form sturdy bonds with their primary caregivers to feel secure. The inconsistency in meeting a child's needs can have serious repercussions later in life. Bowlby's theory is one of the attachment theories behind the onset of childhood depression. Failing to meet their needs at an early age increases the child's vulnerability to childhood depression. So some typical and atypical child milestones. Children with atypical development have a hard time dealing with emotions and unfortunately do not outgrow some of these difficulties. Some atypical child milestones are easy mood changes, difficult to comfort, difficulty adapting to situations, compulsive lying, hurting themselves or others, laughing for no reason, touching themselves or others inappropriately, and eating non-food items. Some typical milestones are simple socializing with others, understanding others' feelings, engaging with other peers. They're more adaptive to new situations. They can be easily consoled in case they're not having a bad day, and can focus. Sometimes children who have atypical social emotional milestones have a harder time focusing than those who are developing as they should.
So for this presentation, we actually found a couple case studies, and for this first one, we're gonna share with you guys the story of a girl named Leah and her experience growing up with childhood depression.
I want to be in the dark by myself alone, and I want to be unconscious. I think that my ADHD and depression, anxiety are all definitely directly related to my childhood. I moved to Ohio when I was 8 years old because my father had passed away. He had cancer, and how my mom took it afterwards. Started to have a really bad drinking problem and started taking prescription medications all the time. As a kid, I was always afraid something was gonna happen. I've always been anxious. I mean, the depression didn't seem to start until I was like in my teens.
Like our sophomore year, you definitely hit a crisis point there where we came close to hospitalizing her for suicidal ideation. You know, the hardest part was just feeling so helpless, like nothing we could do would really help. You know, and depression is like this for anyone. I'm sure it kind of pulls everybody in, you know, like a kind of a black hole.
It's something that's real that people don't understand. It's like a monster, like something in the back of your head.
It's not fun to talk about, and people don't talk about it. The more we can talk about it, the less people will feel alone.
Everything changed when I got to Ohio, except that one of the first things that we did was get me back into the music program. When I'm playing violin, like everything just kind of goes away. It's a form of therapy. I know that I'm strong.
So what we could see with this particular example is that even though something happens in your childhood and it leads you to having depression during a certain age, like it could honestly have lasting effects, as we could see here. Like it could bring that trauma into your teen life and an adult life, but not all hope is lost, since one could basically try to find things that they love, and they could learn how to cope with certain situations so that they don't have to feel miserable all the time.
I want to be in the dark by myself.
And with this second case study, it is about a boy whose name is not revealed due to the protection of identity, and it basically shows how certain factors have affected his life during his childhood, basically.
Anybody else in your family that you're worried about in that way? So, Sam, how do you feel in your close relationships? Do you feel loved and cared about and special? You're shrugging. What's that mean?
Well, my mom pays more attention to my little brother. And then when I try to talk to my mom if I want something, she don't really listen that well. She just kind of keep doing what she's doing. And then month later, asked me again, what did you want? Not a lot, though, really, at any time. She do that.
So you're not feeling loved. Is there any place in your life with any adults or with anyone that you're feeling loved?
I like to be in my room, but I don't really have anyone else now.
So if you had a problem or you were hurt in some way or something was happening, who would you go to for help, or what would you do?
I don't have anybody. I just go to my room and think. I just like being in my room sometimes.
And is anybody in your family ever been in jail or in prison?
No.
So the stressors in your house and what's going on, making your mom not be there for you as much. What do you think are some of those stressful things?
Well, probably because my grandma's fighting with her a lot. And also my dad moving away because they were divorced.
That's right. Your mom told me that your dad and your mom aren't together anymore and that he's moved out to BC. Do you see your dad? No. When was the last time you saw him?
A year ago.
And is there a plan for you to see him? No. What I've heard is that, there's some stressors and some things that are hard for you in your life. And you talked to me about the arguing that's happening between your mom and your grandma, that your dad has moved away, that you're not always in the right clothes and you have to fix some of your meals, and that you're not always feeling loved and special. But you've also told me that nobody's hurting you in a physical or in a verbal or in a sexual way.
No.
Nobody's saying mean things to you. That you're not worried about your mom emotionally, and that she's not worried about her all the time, struggling or emotionally. Yeah. And that nobody you know is in prison or has been in prison.
No.
And you don't have any concerns about drugs or drinking or in your home. Sam, do you think some of those stressors are what's making it hard for you at school?
I think so. Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Why do you think that might be?
Maybe because I'm thinking about that, and then I'm not thinking about what I'm doing at the moment, and then I don't get a lot done.
That makes a lot of sense, Sam, that when things are stressful at home, that kids have trouble concentrating and it affects them at school. So I'm going to talk to your mom more, and we're going to try and figure out a way that I can help you and your mom with some of that stuff. Okay? So thanks for coming in.
So with this specific case study, we could see that that problems that are happening in a home could have effects not just like in the home place, but also like in school, because this child is basically kind of seeing the reality of life in a way that a child shouldn't, because he is forced to grow up at such a young age, since it's already shown that he basically spends a lot of time of it on his own, like in his room, rather than being with his parents due to neglect. And he even fixes his own meals, and because of that, like, it affects his performance at school, which in reality it shouldn't have to be that way.
Treatments and therapy. So, two forms of psychotherapy are cognitive behavioral therapy and interpersonal therapy. Cognitive therapy is a form of psychotherapy. The purpose of this type of therapy is to detect the child's bad thoughts and negative behaviors and replacing them with positive ones in hopes of improving the child's mood. Interpersonal therapy is another form of psychotherapy. And interpersonal therapy is used to help children understand their feelings and emotions, while also the thoughts and feelings of the people that surround them that may be contributing to their depression. Some medications that are used to treat childhood depression are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, also known as SSRIs, commonly known as antidepressants. Medication is typically prescribed for severe cases. Although medication has been proven to be effective to treat childhood depression, they also have serious side effects.
So there are also various ways that one could prevent childhood depression. The first one being establish predictability and stability early in life. Basically, it would mean like avoid moving homes and school districts and shuffling schedules way too often, so a child doesn't feel too disorganized, and also like encourage strong relationships with caring adults, like other than like having parents, relatives, and teachers. Like, a child could basically have more connections with other members of the community and even friends, and it could provide a valuable foundation of love and support. Encourage open and honest communication. Basically, if a child has something to say on their mind, like, they have to be encouraged to say what they would like to say, and not be taught to shut down their thoughts and emotions. Develop a balanced approach to discipline. Like, instead of telling kids what they can and what can they not do, like, it's always good to encourage them and always give them positive feedback. And also, like, let kids experience life, because even though we like, as parents, like, they want to do the best for their children, and protect them from the realities of the world. Like, a child kind of needs to experience not necessarily very harsh realities, but kind of live life on their own. And if they come across a situation that brings pain, well, in a way it's inevitable. But if they're not protected from it, they'll at least learn through experience to be able to know what to do in certain situations. And also, like, support kids' self-esteems, and also consider like preventive therapy. And if you believe like a child is at risk for depression because of life circumstances, it is good to consider therapy or a support group involving other children in the same situation. In conclusion, basically, depression is just not a mental illness that affects only adults, since we can see that affects people of all ages. And one should know that they should always shower kids with the care and love, not fear and punishment.
If you or a loved one think their child is showing depression symptoms, below are some helpful links. We understand we're still in a pandemic, so therapists have come up with creative ways to service children via online. And the link below is the 7 best online therapy programs for kids. Some local sources around here in Monterey County are Children's Behavioral Health Services. They serve children and youth throughout Monterey County who have emotional disturbances. Also, there's the early intervention team, and that's for children from 0 to 5. It provides early child mental health services for children who are at risk or are showing early warning signs of emotional, mental, or behavioral challenges. Below are the phone numbers that these programs can be reached at.
And this is basically our works cited, which concludes our presentation.